there, welcome to another edition of Yoga with Anne. Today we're going to focus on twists, forward folds, and a little bit of core work. So working to warm up this part of the body for feasting and overeating, depending on when you're taking this class. These kind of poses can help us to digest, to detox, to just kind of get things moving around in this area. I did create this sequence around Thanksgiving time. You may be doing this at a different time. It's always appropriate and well received in your body, but just know that that was kind of my focus when I came up with this sequence. So drinking lots of water is always a good idea when we're detoxing and helping with digestion, so make sure that you have some water nearby. Props for today, for sure, a folded blanket or towel. And if you have a yoga block, but if not, we can use our blanket or towel. You could also use a couple of books stacked up for later on in our practice. So I'm going to move back onto my mat, starting in constructive rest, how we typically start in my classes. Of course, if you prefer to be lying down, you're welcome to be that's how we're going to start. If you prefer to be seated, you're welcome to be seated. For me, it's just a little bit easier to connect with my breath and my body lying down. And as I come to lie down, typically I need to give myself a little bit of movement. So just coming to lie down on a flat, hard surface is not ideal for my body, my shoulders, my hips. So you might want to just sway your knees side to side or hug your knees in. There's so many different things you could do here. You could bring your knees close to your torso and then move away. So you're doing a little bit of a pelvic tilt here. So just a little bit of movement, I find, allows my body to settle and connect more with my mat and the earth. If you need something different, then that's what you do. And then once you feel a little more connected, bring your feet to your mat, have your knees bent, maybe shift your shoulders or hips or whatever you need to. It's always nice to close your eyes or soften your gaze. Give yourself a few moments here, as still as you can be. Noticing if you're fidgety, and see if you can bring that to a little more stillness, coming a little more inward here. And notice your breath. I like to have my hands on my belly because that kind of keeps me at that center of the area that we're going to bring a focus to, of my breath, of my being present in this moment. For the next moment, deepen your breath, taking in a long, slow, smooth inhale. And as you exhale, let out a sigh. Opening your eyes once again, hugging your knees into your chest, bringing one in at a time. And again, you could stay still, you could do that pumping motion, you could circle, you could rock. Let's keep our right knee hugged in and set your left foot down on the floor. So you could stay right here, keeping your left knee bent, or extend that left leg out long. Check in here. Intensifies the stretch, the pose, the movement in your body. You can always bend your knee once again, and then press through your right foot and press through your left foot. So both feet are active. In your wind release pose. And let's have the left knee join the right. And again, if you want to make movement or stay still, you can also give your ankles, toes a little love, circling, pointing and flexing. Let's keep the left knee hugged in and set the right foot down for a moment. And honor this side of the body. So check in here. If it's okay, you'll extend your right leg long, pressing through that heel or the ball of the foot. If you press through the heel and it causes sciatic or any other issues in your legs or your back, then adjust. Press through your right foot. And as we were moving, I mentioned about honoring your body, and I usually start class that way. So always honor your body in any pose we're doing. If it doesn't feel okay, you don't do it. If you need to modify or come out early, you do that. I try to give plenty of modifications, but I may not have one for you, so you do what's best for you. Let's have the right knee join the left knee, and one more time, a little movement here. And then make your way over to one side, pressing your hands into your mat to bring yourself up into seated. So I like to sit on something for my seated poses, so the blanket I used under my head, it's already ready. I'm going to sit right at the edge. So if you sit at the edge, it allows your pelvis to tilt forward and it gives you more room in your upper body to sit nice and tall. And we're going to come into what's called Baddha Konasana, soles of your feet together and knees open wide. If you're really tight and your knees are high up, you could move your feet farther away, and they also don't have to touch. Also, if you do have yoga blocks, your blocks could support your knees, but they may not be high enough. You can put couch cushions, pillows from your bed. You can use any sort of thing under your knees. But we want to sit tall here. So if you feel like we're really rounding, adjust your body so you're not manipulating part of the body to get into another part. Want to honor all parts of the body, nice and tall. And then you're going to reach your arms out in front of your chest, your palms are facing down, and you bring your right arm on top. And then you're going to give yourself a hug. And that might be too much, so if that's too much, you come to hands to elbows. If you're okay here, you stay here, still staying tall in your torso and your spine. This is modified eagle arms. You could also bring your arms to be parallel to each other, backs of palms touch, front of palms touch. You decide where you should be today. And then we're going to come into a twist. We won't go very far because of how our arms are. So you're going to inhale, getting tall in your torso, and as you exhale, you're going to start to turn to the right. The movement starts in your low belly and then works its way up. Next time you exhale, come out. Inhale nice and tall. Exhale, twist to the left. Low belly, upper belly, chest, and then shoulders. Next inhale, come back. Fully exhale to release. Give it a shake. Then we'll reach our arms out in front of our chest again. This time the left arm comes on top. Start with a hug or holding on to opposite elbows. This side is different, so honor this side. Keep your spine tall and long. So if you're really rounding here, then that's when you make that adjustment. Nice and tall. Inhale tall. On the exhale, twist to the left first. Keeping your spine long as you come into your twist. Next, exhale, come out. Inhale tall. Exhale, twist to the right. Exhale, come out. Inhale, release. Fully exhale. Release those shoulders. We're going to come into a forward fold. So one more time. Inhale, tall. Exhale, hinge at your hip creases. So no fold at your waist. You're making this movement at your hip creases. So for some of you, you might be right here. This might be your forward fold today. If we came all the way down, and for most of us, that's not going to happen, and it's okay. Your heart, your chest would touch your feet first. So you don't want to aim your head. There is going to be a slight curling forward because this is a forward fold, but we don't want to just fall into it. We want to have that line of energy reaching from our sit bones through our groins, up our belly, our heart, crown of our head, and then we come forward. And then maybe you come a little bit into the fold, if that's appropriate for your body. Inhale on up. Fully exhale. Hands on the outside of your knees. You can either extend your legs out long and do a little wiggling, jiggling. You could step your feet a little wider with your knees bent and do some seated windshield wipers here. It can be nice because we are working on the hips as well, multitasking, as most of our yoga poses do many things for the body. Okay, so from here we're going to come into a tabletop onto all fours. If you want padding for your knees, get your blanket or towel and put that in the middle of your mat. If it's difficult for you to be on your wrist, you can always come down to your forearms. You start with your shoulders your wrists under your shoulders. If that's too much, you can move your hands slightly forward, a little wider, check in there. Fingers spread wide. Knees are right under your hips. And there's a slight lift in your belly. And then you're going to extend one leg out long, toes on the mat. So long line of energy from the crown of your head out through your heel. So it's a diagonal long line. Still got a lift in your belly with your hips square. This might be enough for you today, or you start to lift your leg up, not higher than hip height. Hips are still square. So you could make this next movement we're going to do with your foot on the mat. We're going to, on our exhale, we're going to crunch under, bringing knee to nose, rounding forward. And then you inhale out long, and you exhale knee to nose, trying to stay even in your hands and shoulders. Inhale out long, exhale one more time, knee to nose. Inhale out long, exhale foot down, knee down. You need to shift a little bit if you know cat-cow, circling your torso. You need to sit back for a moment and give your wrists a break, wiggling, opening and closing your fingers. And then we'll come back to tabletop. Extend your other leg out long. So start with your toes curled under on the mat. Help to create that lift foundation in your body. You could make the movement from here, totally fine, bringing the foot back, or let's lift up and take a moment here to feel strong in our shoulders and arms. So we don't want to sink here. We're going to be really wide in our shoulder blades. Inhale nice and long, exhale, crunch under. Inhale and exhale. One more time, inhale out long, exhale, bring it under. Inhale, extending. And then exhale, bring your knee down. You can do a little cat-cow, any sort of movement here. So let's do some cat-cow, so moving with your breath. So as you inhale, you open up into that cow, and as you exhale, you come into the forward fold, into flexion, the cat. Inhaling, opening, taking in the breath, exhale, rounding. So the movement starts in your pelvis, both ways for cat and cow. So think about the movement starting in your pelvis and then working its way up your spine to your heart, your upper back, your head and neck. And don't just throw your head back. Let it follow as you move. Last round. Coming back into tabletop. We're going to transition into downward facing dog. If that's not okay for you, stay in tabletop. You can come to a child's pose. You can come onto your forearms. You can also do forearm dog. So step your hands one handprint forward, curl your toes under, lift your knees up, shift your hips back, and then reach your thighs away from your hands. And then I'm going to move my blanket out of the way. If you're going to do that, be mindful, be careful. Really pressing through your fingers, reaching your heels toward your mat does not mean they have to touch. Moving your thighs away from your arms. Your gaze is at your feet. Your ears are between your upper arms. We're going to come into Uttanasana, standing forward fold. You can walk hands to feet, feet to hands, or a combo of the two. I usually do a combo. If you can't easily reach the mat without rounding, have your hands higher, anywhere on your body, just not pressing deeply into your knees. So if a half fold is better, or even having your knees bent, your forearms on your thighs, this is a great forward fold. And my neck is a continuation of my spine. I'm not dropping my head, I'm not holding it up. Wherever you are, let's bring our hands to our hips. Inhale here, fully exhale. The next inhale, you'll start to finish lifting up into Tadasana, mountain pose. Just taking a moment here, reaching through your feet. So grounding through all four corners and then lifting from your belly. Your heart is open. reaching through the crown of your head, and your arms just naturally go where is comfortable for you. And then we're going to come up to the top of our mat. Coming back to our mountain pose. So your feet are about hip distance apart. You feel grounded and rooted. You're tall and long. I'm going to bring my hands to my hips because we're going to step our right leg back. So you put a little more weight into the left. And you step your foot back so that you're on the ball of your back foot. So the heel is not down on the mat. So this is balance. This is a lunge. Your front knee is bent, not forward of your ankle. So adjust. You can either shift back or make your feet farther apart from each other. So there's still that press and that lift. And then we'll bring our arms out in front of our chest. Bring your right arm on top. Come into your eagle arms, whether it's a hug or more traditional eagle arms, and you're lifting your elbows up to shoulder height and pressing away while still thinking about the collarbones widening. Release your arms. You're going to start to bring them behind you, palms face toward each other, fingertips reach toward your back foot, coming into a back bend. So thinking about lifting from your heart. So it's really easy to come into a back bend like this, right? But listen, my voice totally changes. So there's still that lift, and back bends come from really behind heart center where that spot is pretty tight and sticky. And we're still safe in our knee. Ooh, losing my balance. Reaching and opening. It's a pretty small movement for most of us because we are pretty tight. And then come back upright and reach your arms out shoulder height. So because of my shoulder neck issue, I'm actually going to come into cactus arms. You're welcome to have your arms out at your hips or cactus arms. And then we're going to come into a twist, thinking about moving from your belly button, twisting to the left. So toward your front bent knee. And then you'll come back to center, you'll bring your hands to your hips, and you'll step your back foot forward. Whew. You need to do a little wiggle, that Tadasana swing in between the two sides. Before we come to the second side, I'm going to have a little water, so maybe you grab some water as well. And I'm just switching sides because it's easier for you to see me. Coming back to mountain pose. And then we'll put weight into our right foot leg as we step our left foot back. So sometimes we don't quite get there, right? Maybe the back foot comes down, or our stance is too short, or maybe sometimes it's way too long. So adjust so that you can easily move your hips forward, your upper belly and chest toward the same direction as your front foot. Checking in on your knees. So you really want to press, you want to be rooted to help you lift and be light in your upper body. And then bring your arms out in front of your chest. This time we'll bring the left arm on top. Either give yourself a hug or come into some variation of eagle arms for your body. So you want to really create that lift. Release your arms. Reaching them behind you, extending through your fingers, feeling a lift of your heart as you open, your head and neck follow. So don't let them just dump. Breathing. Let's come back upright. Arms can either come out to the side, palms facing forward, or cactus arms. And then we'll twist toward the right, so you're twisting toward your front knee. Come back to center. Bring your hands to your hips and step your back foot forward. And then maybe you want to do wiggle, jiggle. So the Tadasana swing, your arms go one way, the opposite heel lifts up. Nice. All right, so we're going to come back to downward facing dog. I'm actually, if you would, I'd ask that you watch what we're going to do. You can still kind of watch. It's a little harder to do from down dog. So if you watch me, I like to come from forward fold to downward facing dog. But when it's time for you to come down, you can always come to tabletop and then set up in downward facing dog. So totally up to you. Neither is better or worse, it just is. So I'm coming into my dog. So you can just stay here if this is appropriate for you, or you can come back down to tabletop on your hands and knees like we did earlier. And then I'm going to lift a leg up. So I'm lifting with intention. I'm not just flinging. I'm really lifting, using my muscles to lift my leg. And I'm not opening my hip up. I'm keeping my hip square. So keeping my spine as long as I can. Inhale here. And as I exhale, I'm going to crunch. So I'm coming into a modified plank, bringing knee to nose, shoulders over wrists. And then I inhale. And then I exhale again. 3 of these. Inhale. Exhale. If you want to just stay in dog, you can stay in dog. You could also do this from a tabletop. So go ahead and transition either from standing forward fold, give yourself a breath or two there, or from your tabletop to set up into your dog. Remember, you can always do this from your tabletop. You also have the option to do it from lying on your back. If just neither of those options are going to work for you today, it's a little different. Upside down, downward facing dog. And you can kind of decide. I kind of like to bring one knee in and then lower the other. Make sure that's okay for your back. And then maybe you switch sides. So if you're doing it from tabletop or dog, we'll do 3 times on one side and then 3 times on the other side. So if you're already going, awesome. I will join you. Lifting up, inhale, that leg nice and long. As you exhale, you crunch under knee to nose, coming into a modified plank. Inhale, long. Exhale, coming into the plank. Inhale. Exhale, crunch. One more extension on this side, and then set your foot down. You could do a child's pose in between. And then the second side, inhale, leg long. Exhale, crunch. Inhale, extend. Exhale, modified plank. Inhale, long. Exhale, crunch. One more inhale, extending. Exhale, foot down. Knees down. Coming into a child's pose, having your knees wide. Your big toes touch or close together. You drape your torso over your thighs. If your forehead doesn't easily reach your mat, you can stack your hands. You could use your blanket. You can make fists. If you have a block, you could support your head with a block. Whew. From our child's pose, we're going to come all the way down onto our belly. So, for me, the easiest way is to come to a tabletop, shift my knees back a little bit. I'm going to do a modified push-up. The bottom part of a push-up. I guess it's the push down, maybe. So you can stack your hands and rest a cheek, a forehead, your chin, and you can stay right here. This is a back bend. If you want to do a little more, you're going to bring your arms down by your side, hands by your hips. Your chin or forehead is on the mat. Press through the tops of your toenails, so not curling your toes under. The tops of your feet press into the mat, your knees press into the mat, and then your belly lifts up towards your spine. And then lift your legs, peel your chest, reach your triceps up toward the ceiling, palms face toward each other. So don't just like fling your arms up, like move with intention like that leg in downward facing dog. And your neck is long, so make sure your chin's not jutting forward, and then slowly come on down. Resting for a moment. You could stay here, or if you have it in you to do one more Shavasana locust, you'll set up your foundation. Lift your legs, peel your chest, reach your arms. You could just do one of those, 2, or all 3. Check in with your neck. It's long on all 4 sides. Next exhale, come on down. Resting the best way for you. You could wiggle out your hips. You could do some windshield wipering. You're welcome to stay here, or come into a child's pose, or come to lie on your back and hug your knees into your chest. And for child's pose, you really decide how wide your knees are. I like to have my knees close together. but that's not accessible for everybody. And then I reach my arms by my feet. That just feels better in my body. But check in, do what's best for you. Then we'll bring our hands under our shoulders by our knees to press on up, coming back up into a seated position. So we're going to make our way onto our back for supported bridge. So if you don't have a block or books, you'll use your blanket or towel. Mine just got a little crooked, so I'm going to refold it. I'll show you how to set up with both. Nothing under your head, so we want to keep the natural curve of our neck. We're going to lift our hips up, and then the neck will start to press down toward the mat. So we want to keep that natural curve, so nothing under the head. If you need some padding because it is a hard surface, have a thin amount of blanket, but just enough to support the base of your skull. So I'll show you how to set up for both. So if you're using a block or books, this is the setup for that. Coming into constructive rest. Knees bent, feet on the mat. Press your feet into the mat to lift your hips up and slide your support under your sacrum. So not your low back. And then you just rest back down on the block. And you can see why here you don't want to have anything under your head or neck. You want to keep it pretty free. So I'm going to press my feet to lift up and move my block out of the way. And then the blanket or towel is slightly different. It's wider. So I'm going to press my feet in. I'm going to lift. This time I support my low back and my hips and sacrum. You can also step your feet wide and have your knees come to support each other. I get pretty comfortable and relaxed in this pose and my knees start to sway around, so this is where I like to be. But maybe you want to keep your feet hip distance apart and your knees standing tall. Press your feet into the mat to lift your hips up, just enough to move your support out of the way. And bring your hips back down for a moment. My spine seems to grow a little, so I need to make an adjustment. And then I'm going to bring my blanket to be back under my head. So it's more at the base of my skull than my neck. And then let's step our feet as wide as the mat. And we're going to do some windshield wiping. So this is a twist, a pretty open twist. So as you exhale, your knees go to one side, your arms are wherever's comfortable. And when you inhale, your knees come back up. And when you exhale, your knees go to the other side. So just go back and forth, moving to your breath. Finish the round you're in and do one more after that. Whenever you're complete, you come back to constructive rest with your feet hip distance apart, your knees bent, and just taking a moment here. And then from here, we're going to set up for our Shavasana, or final relaxation pose. If supported bridge felt really nice, you could come into that. Because we don't do Shavasana very long in my YouTube classes, I typically stay in constructive rest. Sometimes I step my feet wide and have my knees together. You could have your legs out long. For most of us, it's not very comfortable. So maybe you roll a blanket or get some cushions or pillows and put them under your knees. Many options. So you'll get yourself settled. In a moment, I'm going to come out of my Shavasana to read to you something as you're in your pose. So you'll stay where you are. Of course, if you'd like to do longer Shavasana, you can pause the video. You can set timer on your phone, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then when it goes off, you can play the video again and listen to the reading to end your practice. Feel the movement of your breath in your body. Your inhales as you expand and open, your heart receiving. And as you exhale, your body contracting and softening as your heart softens. When we think that something is going to bring us pleasure, we don't know what's really going to happen. When we think something is going to give us misery, we don't know. Letting there be room for not knowing is the most important thing of all. We try to do what we think is going to help, but we don't know. We never know if we're going to fall flat or sit up tall. When there's a big disappointment, we don't know if that's the end of the story. It may just be the beginning of a great adventure. Slowly start to deepen your breath. As you feel ready, you'll start to make small movements in your body. And maybe shifting to bigger movements. Taking your time, giving yourself what you need here, moving slowly. When you feel ready, you'll roll over to one side and take a breath or two in your fetal position. Now with the strength of your hands and arms, you'll press yourself up to seated, bringing your head up last. And as you come to seated, make sure you feel comfortable. You can sit well, so sitting at the edge of your blanket. You have a block or something else to sit on. You need support for your knees. Please find that. Even though this is the end of our practice, it's still our yoga practice, so honoring your body right now in this moment. And then bring your hands together at heart center in Anjali Mudra. Keep peace in your mind, keep strength in your body, and keep love in your heart. Namaste. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope that you enjoyed the sequence. As always, if you have requests or comments, feel free to comment below. You can email me at therealgofitgirl@gmail.com. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter at GoFitGirl and Instagram at TheRealGoFitGirl. Depending on when you're watching and doing this video, I am, for the day of Thanksgiving, doing a donation-based yoga class. So live yoga with me. If you can't afford to donate anything, you just come. But you need to email me to let me know so that I can send you a Zoom link. And if you're new to Zoom yoga with me, we've got to fill out a waiver and do a few other things. So if you're interested, feel free. It's 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. Pacific. I'd love to have some new faces come to class. It'll be a lovely practice. I have a lovely Zoom yoga community. I'd love you to be a part of it if that works for you. And I'll have more live donation classes in December. So if that doesn't work for you, you're welcome to look at some other stuff. If you go to gofitgirl.com/classes, You will find all of my schedule of my regular weekly classes and then the special classes that I'm doing through the end of the year. I hope you have a lovely day, and I hope to practice with you again soon. Thanks so much.